Alright everyone, it's time to talk about the Christchurch shooting because, you know, nobody's talking about anything else. It's like Beto, Cory Booker's girlfriend, North Korea reconsidering its missile launch. No, just Christchurch. The first thing I would say about this, there's so many points to make. The first point is if you actually think that Pewdiepie is causing his fans to become radicalized because this moron decided to shout out sub to Pewdiepie before going into a mosque and killing dozens of people, then you are unmistakably definitely not part of the YouTube community in any meaningful sense and don't really know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, what we saw was immediately all of the same hacks that wanted to say PewDiePie's a Nazi like last year or whatever jumped on him because of that. It's a meme, dude. If you don't understand what that means, then you shouldn't even be. Like, why are these people that are writing for Polygon or BuzzFeed or something like that? Stop. Quit your job. You don't know what you're talking about. Candace Owens gets mentioned in the Killer's Manifesto, one of these shooters, and I believe that it's been confirmed now that there's a second shooter. I think they're both in custody. I think. I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. Lots of people dead, you know, very sad. Candace Owens gets mentioned. He's like, well, yeah, you know, I became radicalized. It was very interesting for him to use the term, yeah, I was radicalized. By the way, it was Candace Owens who did that. Is that a tongue-in-cheek reference? Yeah, I decided, by the way, Sean King comes out, but blood's still, you know, not even cold. Probably some of the victims are still barely alive at the time. Sean King, Talcum X, comes out and starts rambling about white supremacy. Did you bother watching the footage? Half the people who died were white. Islam is not a race, you know, if ever you needed evidence of this, just watch the footage, gruesome as though it may be, and you'll understand that. By the way, the shooter, not particularly effective, he goes in and mows a bunch of people down. He reloads. He goes back and sprays down groups of people he's already sprayed before. He does this 3 fucking times. Meanwhile, it takes the police 10 minutes to show up. And here's a pro-gun statement to be made. And I don't say this lightly because, of course, that's, you know, trying to spin and pander as well. Saying, well, you know, if only the people in that mosque had more guns, it would have stopped him. Well, it's not an effective argument, at the very least, even if I'm somewhat sympathetic to the basic logic. At another mosque, apparently several Muslims with firearms opened fire on the gunman or gunmen and drove them off. So yes, dozens of people probably were saved by the fact that people in New Zealand own firearms. Thank goodness. But unfortunately, what the lamestream media will roll with is, oh, the gun availability is why this tragedy happened. He totally couldn't have built an explosive. Yes, he could have. Yeah, apparently there was no security there. If he's already, like, suicidal anyway, doesn't really care. He's like, he walks in and starts mowing people down. Who's to say he wouldn't go in jihad style with a bomb strapped to him or some crazy shit like that? By the way, the shooter's a moron. You're a moron if you think that doing this sort of thing is... If you think, well, our culture's being invaded from afar and, you know, Islam and Sharia and so, okay, going in and killing a bunch of civilians is not going to help your cause. That's not how leaders think. That they think strategically. They don't think of a spur of the moment, knee-jerk reaction. Something makes them snap because they read a thread. It finally pushed them over the black pill edge, so to speak, demoralized them, and they said, well, all is hopeless. Yang 2020, I'm going to go kill people. You know, that's not how greater minds think. That's how small minds think. Oh, well, I'll go attack the problem. I'll go shoot people. It's not going to work. Ideologically, you just lost, you win a battle and then you lose a war. That's what ends up happening. Violence doesn't help in those senses. Normally, unless you can completely wipe a group out entirely, you lose if you enact violence against them, especially if you're enacting it against innocents. Some people were trying to debate me. I had 2 different fuckers trying to debate me, 2 different fucking groups, rather, on Twitter the other night when I was weighing in on this. The first group were a bunch of commies, and the second group were a bunch of ethno-nats. And I don't mean like a Spencer ethno-nationalist, I mean like people who have become black. They're like the shooter. They're getting more radicalized. By the way, the MSM definitely responsible for that because it prevents people like me from debating them because it constantly breathes down our necks, says we're platforming hate, says we shouldn't talk or debate or have conversation. We should just shut up and let them censor. And I don't fucking agree with that, so fuck the mainstream media first and foremost. They are just as culpable as the shooter with their fear-mongering and their censorship-loving. The commies come in, and they say, well, goddamn you for your conspiracy theorists blaming the lamestream media. Dude, These people are currently trying to make it seem as though Pewdiepie is responsible for a mass shooting because the person who did the mass shooting used his username in a Facebook stream of him killing people. I am very glad to know that the kind folks at the Wall Street Journal and BuzzFeed, their journalistic integrity is so lacking that if one of my fans were to mention my username while robbing a bank, I would somehow be responsible for that. I am very, very happy that it is so easy for content creators to be the scapegoat for larger societal problems that went on long before the internet was public. Very glad about that fact. By the way, generally speaking, you're safe. You're probably not going to get killed by a mass shooter anytime soon. Then some ethno-nationalists came and said, well, you know, he was just striking back for Rotherham and all of these other things. He had that on one of his clips. Fuck you. That doesn't make any sense at all. He's in New Zealand. He's not in the UK or in Chechnya or someplace like that. He's in New Zealand. He walks into us. How does he even know that these people aren't native-born New Zealanders? You do realize that there are converts to Islam from within these countries. Now, I don't like Islam as an ideology. I'm not a Muslim. I debate Islamists. I certainly don't support hardline zealotry of any brand, whether it's Islam or any other religion. You look at the UK right now, the LGBT courses in some of those schools there were shut down by a conflagration of Islamic parents and fundamentalist Christians who chuckled as they realized it was finally societally acceptable for them to protest gay people because a bunch of Islamo-fascists happened to have moved into town. It's wonky. It's fucking wacky. The Western world does have problems. And by the way, the MSM gave the shooter an easy win. He says in his manifesto, among other things, well, you know, I'm hoping that this will cause the debate about guns to spill over. The left will overreach. They'll go and try to confiscate guns, and that'll cause a reaction. It'll cause mayhem. It'll cause chaos. Haha. This dude is the ultimate doomsday cult nihilist, ultimately. Not really motivated by a sane or reasonable or coherent political ideology. He's motivated by wanting to see the system collapse. Then labels himself an eco-fascist. So I guess he's Oswald Mosley with a pine tree farm, basically. That's what he's casting himself off as being. And by the way, he's a total racist, but he was turned into an extremist by Candace Owens. Because everyone knows she's so extreme. She constantly talks about killing minorities and stuff, even though she is herself a minority. This dude's fucking psycho, and the MSM took the bait, and now they're running with Pewdiepie's responsible. Oh my god, we need to crack. We need more. Trust me, we need more censorship. We need more suppression. We need to think about kicking some of these content creators off if they're not G-rated priority creators like fucking, I don't know, Kyle Kulinski or the Young Turds or some vapid group like that. We need to do more to stop hate. But the one thing that would actually stop it will never be done. Well, two things. They'll never invest more in mental health care, because obviously a lot of these people are just fucking nuts. That includes people who say, well, I'm religiously motivated, I killed for Allah or something. No, some of these people are just nuts. Even their imam would tell them, hey, you need to calm down, and it doesn't happen, because there's nothing to stand in their way. They sit there and they fucking snap. And the other thing that they could do is point out, hey folks, you're being paranoid, mainly because the corporate media is telling you should be paranoid. Generally speaking, you're pretty safe, though. Unless you live in a blighted inner city district somewhere in the world, you'll probably live to a ripe old age. Or you'll die of a heart attack or stroke, maybe, because of obesity or too much sugar intake, but you're probably not going to get shot. You'll probably never get shot. It'll probably never happen. You'll probably never see anybody shot, generally speaking. They want to convince you that, by and large, human beings are violent and insane and out to get you. That's wrong. That's not actually the case. But it makes a good story. They did this back in the 80s with the satanic panic. Oh my god, devil worshippers are everywhere. They're going to abduct your kids. They're going to molest your kids. They're going to kill you. They're going to sacrifice you to the devil. The Western world is being degenerated and overrun by a bunch of non-Christians, and it never happened, and it was never going to happen. Now the new fear porn is, oh my god, the evil right, the far right, the alt-right, or bigotry, or hate, whatever moniker they're using as a blanket statement now. They're coming for you. PewDiePie is going to radicalize your kids. Oh my god, we need to do something about this. It's the same. They provide the same bullshit scenario that's not even real. They've set themselves up as morally virtuous, the MSM, lamestream culture, the politicians, vapidly browbeat people, and then the end result will be the same, which is no, the era of that moral panic will eventually pass, and it won't be because of anything they did. They'll just have fucked over other people. It won't be the actual radicals that they've done anything about. They'll have inconvenienced a bunch of other people with ingenuity and talent. That's what always ends up happening. The talented and the intelligent are always the ones to suffer the most during a moral panic. They're also the ones that in the subsequent peaceful paradigm do the best, which is the thankful thing. No, fuck the Christchurch shooter. I'm going to save the Western world. I'm going to kill a bunch of innocent people because they're in a mosque. Fuck off. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, if you look at the news, all you're seeing is, hey, yeah, fuck the dude, solidarity and stuff. And yes, there is a double standard. It's like if someone who's motivated or says they're motivated by hardline zealot Islam or something, and they run a truck into a crowd of people at a Christmas market, no, it doesn't get this kind of attention. In all honesty, that is true. And that differential, too, from the MSM causes a lot of problems. Because it makes people on that one end, I think, more emboldened, and on the other end, it makes them more angry, and therefore more prone to a defensive reaction in mind. People like this think that they're acting defensively. Now, you may see it as what it really is. It's just attacking a bunch of innocent civilians. Maybe so, but that's not the way they're thinking. And all that fear porn is going to people's heads. You gotta calm it down. That's about all. Peace out.